What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Historic Labs channel. In today's video, we're going to do the Journey to Launch Part 1, which is going to go over all the legal stuff that you might need to know, or you might need to prepare yourself to know because you want to stay out of trouble and you want to look more professional. So get your notes out and let's get into this video. Majority of the things that I'm going to go over in this video have to do with California state regulations, from the LLC to the taxes to the trademark, the logo, and different things like that, and business insurance. First off, how to make an LLC. I used LegalZoom. It's pretty easy. So if you go to the homepage, you can just go ahead and start looking for the Start My Business button, and then you're gonna click different packages. The recommended one's pretty good because obviously it gives you all of these stuff. I didn't do the premium one. I went with the pro. It kind of does help, but if you have no capital, right, and you're starting from scratch, I would go with the basic, just so you can at least acquire the LLC name and it's not taken, right? Like if someone tries to take the name that you want for your business, so you can go ahead and click the basic package, and then once you go through the process, once you finish it up with one of the agents and it gets into the state, so for example, state of California, you're going to get something like this, right? So this is your LLC registration, articles of organization, your entity name, file number, filing date. I redacted some stuff, obviously, because I ain't trying to dox myself. You're going to have your address there. You're also going to get your IRS EIN, right? That's very important, having the EIN, because when you have an EIN, right, that's pretty much like the social security number for your business. To be able to open up a checking account, having that EIN shows that you are an established business, because you, in the dietary supplement industry, it's a little bit of a gray area, right, when it comes to launching supplements, and the FDA isn't necessarily too crazy about dietary supplements. So they go by the rule of GRAS, right? So GRAS stands for generally recognized as safe, and that's mainly for a lot of the dietary supplements. So whenever you're establishing everything, you want to make sure that you are within the guidelines, right? And depending on your consumer base, if you are selling to like NCAA or military installations or different entities that don't allow certain supplements, you want to make sure that the supplement that you're promoting doesn't go against the regulations of those entities. So like for our products, I didn't use any ingredients that go against NCAA and or the military, just because as a college athlete, like I want college athletes to take our products. I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years. I want the military members to be able to take our products as well. So once you have your LLC and you have everything, LegalZoom is pretty good at helping you out with other stuff, right? Like your trademark registration and other trademarks that you want to register for. So for example, with Historic Labs, we have our logo registered, right? You get a registration number that you're able to search on the registration website. We also register the word historic, right? So for example, on our products, we have the word historic trademarked. That's pretty much representation of your product. And a good example of this would be like, let's see, like Bucked Up, right? So if you go to Bucked Up, they're owned by DAS Labs, right, LLC. So when you click here, the words Bucked Up is owned by DAS Lab, right? And then these are all the codes that are under that trademark. So like DAS Lab, you can click them. So they own the word deer antler spray. They own the word Bucked Up. They own the actual famous, right, logo of Bucked Up. Pixie Pump. There's some other ones too that they own. You can always search them there. So like, for example, Bucked Up Apparel owns Bucked Up, hashtag Bucked Up, get Bucked Up. So whenever you're naming your product, you should always look to be able to register it. So that way you own it, right? With the trademark office. And you're not going to run into any issues down the line with like a cease and desist letter from, an entity that might own what you're trying to register. I find it that you cannot register commonly known words, right? Like creatine, that's something that we don't register, right? Creatine monohydrate it's something that's not registered. So you could play around with it, talk to, your LegalZoom representative and see, because they're going to put you in touch with a team of lawyers, and then you'll be able to ask all the questions there specifically for trademarks. So that's how you establish your LLC, and also you do some of your trademark registrations and also your logo registrations. You could also do like slogans and different things that you want to obviously own. When it comes to, like, for example, like shirts, hats, merchandise, since our category is dietary supplements, shirts and hats and stuff, we don't need to essentially trademark any of that stuff because it's considered like marketing merchandise for our brand. So we don't necessarily need to trademark it. And a lot of like clothing companies aren't obviously going to try to get you for that. Another important thing here, moving on from LLC, is your business license, right? Or like sales permit. So you can go on the websites for the city that you're in, just so to make sure you have your business license set up, and then you could renew it, you could apply. It just depends on the city, right? When it comes to your business license. You also need a sales permit for the state. So you can go ahead and get that from the state, right? So there's your permit number, your start date. So those are a couple things there that you really need to have if you want to be very professional and in touch with everything. So let's backtrack a little bit. You need an LLC. You need to make sure you trademark everything. You need a business license and a sales permit by the state. Those things will pretty much be everything you need to kind of start, right? And like own the business. After that, to be able to pay taxes, right? So like all the money that you make during the year, you'll go ahead and go to franchise tax board, make an account, right? My franchise tax board account. And there's different things, right? So let me click LLC fee and scroll up a little bit. Okay, so due dates for the first annual tax payment. So an LLC has a annual tax payment due, usually in the first quarter, second quarter of the calendar year. So it's $800 annual tax. You have to pay that through franchise tax board. However, it's your lucky day, California also does a kind of like first year exempt, right? So you could be exempt for the first year of registration. So Assembly Bill 85 provides first year exemption from the $800 annual tax, limited partnerships, limited liability partnerships, limited liability companies. So if you, for example, open up in California, you can be exempt from the first year. But take a read at this link here and then make sure that you're following everything that it's talking about for your fees. So because I ended up paying the $800 without reading this in the first year when we could have been exempt for the first year. So I kind of messed that up, right? And then once you pay that fee on your next year or second year, you'll be fine. You have until the 15th day of the fourth month after they file their articles of organization. So for example, for us, we filed in March 2022. Technically, they would be due April, May, June, July. So they're usually due July the following year. And then it says right here, for example, you filed articles of organization on June 19, your annual tax is due on September 15. So that's actually kind of cool. Besides paying this tax, right, on franchise tax board, after you make a profile and everything, you have to pay state taxes, right? So state taxes, this is California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. You would log in, right? You log in, make a profile, And then once you're logged in, you input all the, obviously, the sales you made, and then it comes up with a number for California tax, and then you end up paying it. I don't know, though, if when you file as a sole proprietorship and you file, let's say, through TurboTax, I'd have to ask a CPA for this, to be honest, because if I file as a sole proprietorship on TurboTax and I pay state taxes and pay federal taxes there, does that mean that I have to pay these state taxes on this website as well for the Department of Tax and Fee Administration? I'll have to get back to you guys on that. But if we have some tax experts in here, let me know. Actually, I would like to know that. All right, lastly, one of the other things you need besides LLC, business license, sales permit, and making sure you pay your taxes is business insurance. So I went with Next Insurance. I think they're pretty cheap. You can get a quote. Make sure that you have your general liability. You can do $1 million, $2 million. It just depends on, you know, what you can afford, and also obviously risk mitigation. But we've done a couple events now, right? We did the LA Fit Expo, Anaheim Fit Expo. We just did a calisthenics event last week at UCSD. And they're going to ask for your insurance, right? And it depends. Some events need more liability, less liability. You can always go on here on Next Insurance and talk to a rep and just let them know what exactly you need for liability and other things. And then they'll write in the description on your certificate of your insurance, for example, like the LA Fit Expo, right? So LA Fit Expo, January 27, 28, this address, this phone number, this point of contact, and then boom, it's PDF, and then you send it off to the event coordinators and you have a good event. So it just depends where you're going, what you're doing. But for basic stuff, because you know you're selling consumables, right? So you're selling consumables that anything can happen, and that's why you want to make sure to have, you know, a risk mitigator like business insurance. Well, that sums it up for this video. Journey to Launch Part 1, the legal. Make sure to check the description below. Keep in touch. There's going to be many more parts coming. Use code HISTORIC for 10% off. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more historic content.